Hello everyone and welcome. Yes, my name is Arafai and welcome to a special episode of All Talk No Shock. This is very much hot off the press news with TFCon going on at the moment in Los Angeles in America, and we've had a lot of third-party reveals. You might recall about 4 months ago I did a TFCon third-party reveal video then. I mean, how many TFCons are there? But I thought this is really hot topic. There's a lot of good reveals here. I had to do a video for you. I just want to say, you might even hear it in my voice, I am actually suffering with COVID at the moment. I'm coming to the end of it, I think anyway. So I've got a lot to get through this week. I want to try and get 2 videos out this week, and this is kind of news hot off the press. So I really wanted to do a video for you. No shock. So we'll start off then with some of these really small miniatures that have come out that have given the world's smallest Transformers a real run for their money. And you can see here they're alongside the Spike figurine that will come with MP44. So you know how small we're talking here. They are absolutely tiny. I mean, how they must have manufactured these and produced these is beyond me, particularly when you look at the cassettes. They're very, very small, and yet they still have elements of detailing and sculpting to them. Not an awful lot when it comes to facial features. So in terms of scale, I guess we're looking at to fit in with the Ark. Is it Titan scale? Yes, that's probably what it's being aimed at. But I mean, this is a very niche idea. It's one that people will want. I don't know who's producing these, but by the time I do the edit on this video, I'll find out. I'll put it on the screen. But it's a niche idea. It's one that people will welcome to have that playset vibe for the Ark anyway. So the next offering we get is from Banana Force. Now, we've seen some of their stuff before, and they kind of go more towards the RID side of things. And this is their take, if I'm right, and someone will correct me if I'm wrong, on a Power Master version of Optimus Prime. It's the wings that are giving it away. Now, it looks really good in detailing. I love the legs on it, but I'm not 100% certain that this transforms. This could just be a static figure. We got kind of 3D rendering, and then we have some production shots. So obviously this is quite early in development, but they are still feeling the need to put colour images out with it as well. It's not to say it looks bad, far from it. Banana Force have had a bit of a 50-50, I would say, on their figures so far, but a few companies now are starting to go into these other ranges of, you know, Unicron trilogies, Power Masters, and Target Masters as well to a degree. So a few other companies are going to try their take on this, maybe some more established than Banana Force. Maybe they just want to try and smuggle into a market that they haven't really tapped into before and try something new, which shouldn't be blamed on. I do wonder how complete this figure is going to be, if you know what I mean. Is it just going to be a staction figure? Is it going to be a statue? Or is it going to be something that transforms? And if it does transform, why haven't we seen production shots of it? Still too many questions at this stage. So next up we have Bingo Toys. They're back, and that's a terrible name for a company, by the way, but still, this is the company that brought us the Bumbleverse, Nightverse, the Bumblebee movie-inspired Transformers of Shockwave and Soundwave, and now they've turned their attention to an Ironhide. And you can see straight away, he's called Steelman. He is made from ABS, POM and diecast. POM? Plastic of some description, I would guess. Stands roughly around 25 centimeters tall and transforms into an armored car. And there he is alongside Shockwave himself. Maybe a little bit on the small side, I will say that. I mean, 25 centimeters isn't the biggest in the world, but that Shockwave wasn't the tallest figure in the world, particularly when you compare it to other MP stature figures. So this makes me wonder, how tall is this going to be? It's probably going to be the same size as Masterpiece Ironhide of Takara. So why would this be any different? It's a little surprise that we've seen that. They're probably going to do the whole range of these, and a few other companies are probably going to get in on it as well. I think it's quite funny. It's only about 3 minutes at the start of the Bumblebee film, and yet we can have a whole toy line of it. Shows that there is kind of money on the table for this. I like that they're doing it. I like that it's a slightly different direction, something we haven't seen before. I fully expect there to be a Ratchet to follow, but for now it's fine, it's okay. But moving on, they haven't stopped there. We have also got just an artist's impression of Windblade. Now, this is made with diecast, stands a little bit shorter at 20 centimeters tall, so that is a little bit on the small side, but does transform into a plane. Its estimated release of June this year. Now, I am very much looking forward to this because we are crying out for a good Windblade Transformer, and Windblade really has been accepted quite broadly now into the Transformers universe, even making appearances in Cyberverse. It's not just kept to the IDW comic readers. So there is scope to use this figure. There should be figures of this character on the market, and there hasn't really been. She's very underrepresented, so I'm very glad to see someone giving her a go. I do wonder kind of how much to this impression that they're going to keep to and how much it's going to change. I know this is just an artist's impression, but when you look at it, it has kind of almost a model building Gundam style to it, maybe a Flame Toys. Do I mean Flame Toys? The model kits anyway. Going back to the one before with the Ironhide, it's very blocky. It's not quite their style from what we've seen. So I wonder if it will change through production. That's just one thing that's sticking in my mind. But I'm very pleased to see it nevertheless. And then moving on to my familiar friend, Kang Toys. We saw a slight update from them. Significant, but not quite the update I was hoping for. But what it is focusing on is the feat of their combiner. Now, to anyone who has known this is their Predacons, this is making their Predaking. Now, the combiner part is still, well, it's been finalised, should we say. But to do that, they've released 2 brand new characters that weren't part of the Predacons, weren't part of the team, but to stabilise the combined form. And I wasn't really on board with it. I wasn't happy with it. I thought it went against it, but I've softened to it because, as I've said with the Zeta combiners before, I'm happy with parts forming if it makes the combined version, the final form, if it makes it worth it. And you can't have a combiner if it's only going to use 5 bots and it can't stand up, then that's a problem. That's a shortcoming, that's a failing. So I don't mind them adding more members. I've softened to the idea if it means the final combined form is good. What I think is quite telling about this is with these wolf feet, because they're both a pair of wolves, and apparently they're not going to be any extra cost to us if you've ordered Razorclaw, the King Lion, or the Thor Gorilla, the Optimus Primal, or Monkey Pence, you're going to get these for free. At least that's my understanding, which I think is really good. But what I think is quite telling, when you look at the head sculpt, it looks like from the first run, they've changed the facial features. The head sculpt does look completely different. Now, looking at you can see here how it's plugging into the feet. I think this is quite telling how you got Headstrong. Do I mean Headstrong? No, I'll get it wrong. Ramhorn. It's one of the 2. I should know this. Bah, I can't think of it right now. But you got the die-cast versions. It shows how much die-cast is in it, or it's all metallically painted, being the feet. You've got Lambull on the left there, Tantrum. But what bothers me is the other leg. This is quite late in production and it still looks like prototype renders. It makes me wonder, are they a bit behind on this? Now, I know we've had Chinese New Year and there is kind of a shutdown in production, but the feet are quite long in development. They're obviously quite happy with the combined image because they're showing this now. They're happy with how it stands. But I would have thought that the Rhino would have been further along in production. I'm not certain we're going to see him this year at all. I think it's up for pre-order. It is up for pre-order because I pre-ordered it. I think it's out for May, late May, but I don't know. I can see this being the latter part of 2022, maybe even the start of 23. But then you can see the feet up close and how someone even put a picture up on Facebook of how this looks like K9 from Doctor Who. And now you've got to get that out of your head like I've got to get it out of mine. And this is how they look together. Nice pack of wolves. I think they actually look quite good in this metal form. I don't know how they're going to look in colour renders. But you've got to remember, these aren't meant to be characters. It's just a nice thing that they can turn into animals and robots, but they're there to be the feet, nothing more. And there he is alongside Razorclaw. I am really looking forward to Razorclaw. The more I see of him, the more I want him. And there he is alongside him, robot mode, Razorclaw holding an axe rather than a sword. I won't get on my high horse on that. Horse, lion. And there's all 8 of them together. Yes, there is 8 of them. I think this is actually a slightly out-of-date picture. I think it's just done the rounds again a bit more, along with the release to show it's all there. I don't think they've been updated. Maybe they have done with the different head sculpts on them. But yes, 8 to make Predaking. It does seem a lot. But if it is a good Predaking, then I can live with it. Now, this is something I'm very interested in. The Fans Hobby actually did a few releases, but some we have seen before, so I'm just going to focus on this one in particular. This is their version of Energon Optimus Prime in his fully combined mode, and this is the first time we've seen colour shots of it. Now, I think these are obviously more colour renders than anything else. I don't think these are actual prototype colour images. It doesn't look it to me anyway, but it does look quite good. It shows you kind of how far everything is with development. It wasn't that long ago that they finished doing their Armada Megatron. It was that Armada Megatron that made me think I should really pay more attention to Fans Hobby. I was so blown away with that figure. And seeing what they've been doing with this and how quickly they've been moving along with this, I am paying a lot more attention to Fans Hobby, particularly when you look at the individual mode. Now, I actually think that Optimus Prime there, the chubby bot mode, the dad bod mode, as everyone loves to call it, the core robot mode, I think that looks really good. And I actually think that is quite far in production, because look at the tyre treads. That doesn't look like it's been too digibashed, maybe. I actually think that's quite far along in development. But when you look at the vehicle modes, the truck and trailer mode of Optimus does maybe look a little bit ordinary, perhaps. There's certainly not a lot of red on there. But the individual components look all fine. The helicopter, the drill, the submarine, I guess, and a small little crane. And when you look back on the combined mode, you can see there is this real scramble city going on here. You can mix and match and put them wherever you like. I think that's going to stand really tall. I think it's going to look really good in combined mode, and it will have a playset vibe to it, particularly with how the trailer opens out. We've seen the production shots with Fans Hobby. Again, I'm really looking forward to this. This is coming out August 22. I think they'll meet that, to be honest. I think their Armada Megatron was maybe delayed by a month or so. You have to expect that. But I'm looking forward to this. I do have a lot more time for Fans Hobby these days. I am still very much looking forward to their tidal wave, of course. And it's Return of the King with Fans Toys. Now, I'm not surprised at this. This is very interesting. This is their take on Blaster. Now, Blaster is very much a hot topic. We've got him in Kingdom with Hasbro. We've got him coming along with Deformation Space. There is already the KFC version of Transistor that's been on the market for some time. It has its issues, has its faults, but it's also pretty much the only Blaster in most people's collection. So it's a little surprise when Fans Toys have been focusing on the movie bots or the post-movie bots that Blaster was going to be next. Now, that first image shows you where the diecast is. You can see straight away the abdomen and the chest straight away scream of diecast, and everything else screams of plastic, which, okay, maybe the feet as well could be diecast to support the weight. I think it looks really good. Their head sculpts are money. There's no question they look bang on in both modes, whether you want to have a toy-inspired version or a comic-inspired version or a toon-accurate version. Fans Toys has got you covered. And I just think it looks really good. I love the sculpting on the gun as well. Very keeping in homage to the Blaster character. And of course, he comes with his cassettes. So what does surprise me is that this is definitely under the Fans Toys banner. Their Soundwave that they did recently, Acoustic Wave, was under the banner of Robot Paradise, with the kind of view that it was made of slightly cheaper materials. Fans Toys haven't said that. They haven't even really alluded to it. That's what a lot of people are reading into. I haven't held the figure, but that's my understanding from afar anyway. So I'm a little surprised that this isn't under the same banner, because by and large he is going to be the same, isn't he? By and large, the cassettes are going to be the same. I can't imagine that Steeljaw is going to be any different to Ravage. I can't imagine that Rewind and Eject are going to be any different to Rumble and Frenzy. So why wouldn't this be under the Robot Paradise banner as well? Or why wouldn't Soundwave be under the Fans Toys banner? I don't want to get into semantics too much on it, but where you have the colour renders as well, I know they'll do a good job with the red. I think that will pop really well. And that says to me that they're not really going to go too metallic with it as well, if they're showing this as the colour renders. Perhaps, maybe I'm reading too much into it, because I don't think we saw colour images of Preceptor on release. I think it was just a grey prototype. The fact that they've gone for this letterbox red straight out of the box, I think that says to me that they're not going to focus too metallic-y. This could be like the Acoustic Wave, that kind of pastel-y sort of colouring. The only thing I'm a little bit surprised of, it's not that why are they doing this? I know they are doing the movie bots. I think this is Fans Toys trying to establish themselves as king of the dogs, really, top of the pile, the alpha male, saying, no, we're not going to pay attention to Deformation Space. Deformation Space put their feelers out for this and the prototypes out a little while ago now. So I wonder if this is Fans Toys flexing their muscles, making sure the likes of X-Transbots don't get in on it as well. There's a lot of activity on the third-party world. You can't say there's not. It makes for great watching, very enticing, but I do think this is Fans Toys getting their elbows out, showing their power. I think Steeljaw looks really good. I would still be tempted to get the MMC cassettes, the Ocular Max cassettes, to get that more articulated version of a Steeljaw. But hey, we haven't had Autobot cassettes, really, aside from KFC's Transistor. And even that didn't come with Steeljaw or Ramhorn, I think. Headstrong, Ramhorn. I really should get my rhinos lined up. The figures of Rewind and Eject, they're fine. They look fairly standard. And what is quite interesting on this is you can see where they're going with the movie bots. Now, okay, elephant in the room, who's that in the background? They're going to be doing an Ultra Magnus as well. They certainly wouldn't have put it in the image if they weren't. That's bold. It's not bold, is it? X-Transbots are doing theirs, which is allegedly going to be out before the end of the year. Ultra Magnus is going to be a little bit complicated for them to do, but hey, they did Road King, they did their Motormaster and compact a whole truck into an upright robot. Why couldn't they do it with Ultra Magnus? It could be a very tuned-looking Ultra Magnus. It could make a lot of people upgrade from the Hasbro version, the Takara version. I'm still very, very happy with that version. This will have to convince me quite a bit to say, yes, I want to buy a £200 Ultra Magnus. At this stage, I'm okay. But it shows you the direction that Fans Toys are going in. But at the same time, it doesn't. And this is the problem I have with Fans Toys, is that what direction are they going in? They did say that they're doing tune accuracy. Fine, we know that. But are they doing the Season 1 cast of Transformers? Because we were getting the likes of Outback, we were getting Hound, Barrage, Jazz. That's great. But then we get a Sweep in Scourge, and then we get Chrome Dome, and now we're getting Blaster and maybe an Ultra Magnus. I'm thinking, oh, whoa, Fans Toys, pick a lane. Where are you going next? What's your focus next? It's good to see, don't get me wrong, and options are great, and if they got the production to do it, fine. But I think companies are better when they decide one thing that they're going to do. Like MMC were doing the IDW comics, and they stayed on that course with their figures. And I just think there's a bit more of a honed path with that. When you got Fans Toys kind of throwing stuff out left, right, and centre, eventually they'll run out of figures and they'll have to cease production. Eventually, when they get to 100, I imagine, Fans Toys 100, that will be all of them and say, do you know what, we've done everything now. It's I shouldn't be complaining, options are good. It just strikes me as maybe too much too soon. Okay, coming down a little bit in size, we have Half the Battle Toys, which is a great name and a lot of people will know where that's from. So, how big are these? 6mm to 40mm tall. That, and they've gone for colour articulation. I mean, Soundwave looks fantastic. I've only put a few up on screen here because what you can see is kind of all of the Decepticons, but there's Autobots as well. There's actually done most of the cast of Season 1, but you can see what the Megatron looks like. Optimus actually looks really good, and you've got the ball joints for the elbows and the Energon axe, Starscream, and of course what the rest of the Seekers will look like. It does look really good. I don't know how they manufacture this stuff to such detail. I mean, look at... oh, God, I forgot his name. Laserbeak and... I've forgotten the name. Think about it. Laserbeak and Buzzsaw. Got there in the end. It's great detailing, isn't it, when you've got that individual articulation of wings moving and cutting out for the beak and the legs. And okay, it's not super finite, but they've still then gone on and applied stickers to it. It's a feat of engineering. When it gets that small, it's certainly not easy to do. Too big, it becomes too clunky to manage. Too small, and it becomes too fiddly to manage. So, okay, it might not sell like hotcakes, but it will sell nevertheless. Some people really do like these little miniature figures. I've got the ones that come with the Master-Made figures, and you get these like chibi versions of Megatron and Optimus Prime. You can get Starscream and the other Coneheads and Ultra Magnus that come with the other ones as well. And they are just good fun. Nothing more than good fun. So I like that we got to see it. Okay, crossover territory with G.I. Joe. Now this is where my knowledge is going to hit the wall a bit. I think this is the Hiss tank of G.I. Joe. If there's any G.I. Joe fans out there, and I think one of you is, Jamie, help me. I think this is the Hiss tank, but it looks like it transforms into a Soundwave. Now, I think that Soundwave looks really cool, and a modernised Soundwave really should turn into a tank or something like that. Interesting that he's got... No, I was going to say it's interesting he's got two cannons on his back, but he's got the one on his shoulder and he's holding his gun, so that's how that works. I like that we're seeing those crossovers. I like that there is that, third parties are going to do that. It's not going to be Hasbro just going at it for commercial rights reasons. It's something that's saying, no, what if Soundwave was with G.I. Joe? What if he was helping out Cobra and the likes? So it's just artist impressions. It's early days. But this will please some people, particularly with a famous character like Soundwave. So moving on next, we're going to Legend Scale with Iron Factory. Now, Iron Factory released a load of images. I'm not going to go through all of them now. There's also some images there that we've seen, like the Sea Spray that's come out recently. Looks really good, and I really do like it. But again, we've seen it, so I've just picked a few to focus on. First one I'm going to put on screen here, you've got this samurai-style Grimlock, which again I think we've seen, but I can't recall seeing a colour image of it. I think this looks brilliant. I think this looks really, really good. I don't know which mode I like more, probably a robot mode actually. And when do you ever prefer a Grimlock robot mode over a dino mode? Look at the head sculpt. Look at the shoulder pads, look at the crown, look at the chest. I mean, I'm not a Legends collector. I try to get into it, it's not my bag. But things like this do make me think, oh, maybe I should look at Iron Factory. And I do like their mechanoid designs to things. I think that looks really good. And you've got to think that if Grimlock's here, the rest of the Dinobots are going to follow. Interesting that Kang Toys, of course, when they did one of their shows and they put, the first time we saw their Predaking Combiner, they also showed that they were going to be tackling the Dinobots next. And they did also say, well, the fans read in that they were going to form Volcanicus. I don't know, but it's a similar design is what I'm saying. So this kind of samurai version or heavily stylized version of Dinobots is a route that people are going to go down and companies are going to go down and people will buy it. The Dinobots sell well anyway. So I think this is a good step for the likes of Iron Factory to do. It will sell. I imagine it will be in very high demand as well because it's Grimlock. Also, we got there Leo Kaiser. I'm never sure how to pronounce it. Now, again, we've seen this before, but I don't think we've seen the prototype image on the right. I think we've seen the colour image, but again, I think that's a Digibash one or a CAD rendered. The one on the right shows a lot more panel lines. If you look even at the thighs on the grey prototype versus the colour rendered one, there's a line straight down the centre, which isn't on the colour version, which again makes me think the right-hand side is more developed, more into production, and that's probably what we'll see in final form with the colours to the image to the left. Again, looks really good. Not a combiner I'm particularly focused on. I do like the kind of image that it's going for. I like the squareness to it. There's almost like a Power Ranger vibe to it, perhaps, maybe a Megazord feel. But again, not my bag, not something I'd typically get into, but interesting nevertheless. And then moving on, we come to Ocular Max or MMC, and they've gone for a female version of Armada Megatron. And the first question I had was, why? But then again, why not? Because we had this, didn't we, with Tarn. We have a female Tarn, and that actually sold out really well. A lot of people were saying how good it was, and some people were even saying female Tarn was better than male Tarn, so why shouldn't this be any better? But again, this isn't based on a character. This is a kind of a what-if interpretation. I do like how she transforms into a very compact tank. It does look like it folds away very well, but it's again like the female version of Tarn, isn't it? It's those slender legs, which probably lends itself more to a simple transformation. The back actually cleans up very well, probably again more so than the Armada Megatron we got from Fans Hobby. That's the other point. This isn't Fans Hobbies. It's not like MMC, who did do the female version of their male version of Tarn, so they did both. Fans Hobby did the male version, and this is MMC doing a female interpretation. So cross-platforms there, maybe a bit of discussion between the two. It's unusual to get two versions of one character, albeit slightly different and imagined, so close together. So maybe there is some discussion going on. I think, it looks fine. I think, again, there's a good bit of detailing on the head sculpt. Looks very good. A lot of personality there. Gives me real hexadecimal vibes, if anyone gets that reference. And, yeah, I think that looks good. Armadon. Eris Armadon? Interesting. We'll see what it's like. I wonder how big this is going to be. That does look a very compact tank. So maybe it could be quite small scale, possibly truck scale, much more than MP. But, hey, nice to see something else get represented on the market. Bit of a quiet showing from MMC at TFCon, actually. We got their version of Hubcap that came out, and yeah, it looks fine. It looks maybe, I don't want to say a bit dated, but the legs and the arms do look a bit ordinary. It's not much of anything really. It's their version of, what if a Cliff Jumper, what if a Bumblebee, but it's a hubcap design called Grifter Communications. It has the typical gimmicks that you would get with a Cliff Jumper, but I just think it does look a bit on the ordinary side. Maybe a bit of a quiet showing from them. They did also show that Batman jet that they were doing, but again, this came out a little bit before as well. It was kind of a show again reveal, because we saw it just the other week of that jet mode being released in the traditional Batman colours. But again, a bit of a quiet showing from MMC at TFCon. Right, Moon Studios, their TrainBots, their version of Raiden. Now, again, I'm not going to focus too much on this because a lot of these figures are out now and a lot of them are coming to the conclusion, but here's the 6 of them together. I'm actually really surprised to see all 6 of them together. And I don't know their individual names, so do forgive me, but the grey one with the orange highlights, I'm surprised how much taller he stands. So he's presumably got to be the torso to take the bulk of the weight, but he does stand a fair bit taller. Now, okay, first thing, elephant in the room. I've said it before, I'll say it again, I stand by this. This is Zeta Toys by another name. Very much so when you look at the combined form. But before we get to that, you can see the individual trains as well and how they look. When you get all 6 of them in train mode, particularly when they're all joined nose to tail, that does look good. And you can see when you look back on the production shots, they've used the Lego tracks. I can actually see a lot of people buying this set just to keep them as a train. Because, hey, trains are cool, particularly when you get that front and back shuttle look or a Japanese bullet train. I imagine these will look quite cool all on a shelf going up in someone's room somewhere rather than, say, in combined form. But this is a serious step forward for that combiner now. This is the most finalised version of the combiner we see now. That's a definite in-hand prototype, in full colour, and in full standing gear. And this is one thing that I'm really kind of taking with this figure. It looks incredibly sturdy, which makes me think it is Zeta. The articulation in the hands is there, but look at the chunkiness in the thighs. Again, it's that taller train bot making up the bulk of the torso. But there's a lot of girth here, to use the word and phrase. There's a lot of denseness in his plastic. The feet, the back of it. I'm amazed how that looks. It's not kibble, it's detailed. That's how you got to think of it. It's highly detailed and highly structured and resilient, but it looks incredibly sturdy. And that is only shown when you look at some of these poses. Now, again, I've got the Bruticus and Superion up there of Zeta. I love them. I think they're great. Posability is iffy. You can get some poses out of them, but not loads. And I'm thinking when you're looking at this Raiden, you can get a lot more posability. Look at some of the knee bends and ankle tiltage and support of weight, hip skirt smoothing. You don't have that with these previous 2 combiners, so this is something really new. This is a real development from the likes of Zeta. Again, I still say it's Zeta, or at the very least, Zeta's design. You can see the paint application to the face. It shows the quality of the work that's gone in here. That looks very detailed. This is not far away from release. A lot of people have, I think, 4 out of the X-Transbots, so it won't be all that far away. It looks really, really good. And again, it's not something that I would go in for. It's not a character I have any affiliation with, but I think people will buy this because it's a very good build. And it's trains. Who doesn't love 6 trains? Got to keep rolling on. There's a few more to go through. Planet X. Actually, Planet X really showed quite a lot. And wow. Now, I didn't do a review of this on this channel, but I have got it. He's up there. I won't take him down, please there. I've got the Planet X Cacus, their IDW version of a Grimlock. Well, version of an IDW Grimlock. And here he is, repainted. It is a repaint in Generation 2 colours. But, okay, I'll say this. Generation 2 Grimlock is the best Generation 2 repaint that there is, maybe with the exception of Megatron. But it's one that catches the eye. He's a blue dinosaur, which, considering he was grey in Generation 1 and in every other incarnation since, of course, the blue and the gold is going to capture a lot more. It's already an eye-catching design. So why wouldn't this look fantastic? And of course it does. And where this really comes into its own is when you look in a robot mode. And now, I would actually say that makes the robot mode look better, because the robot mode of Grimlock in this Cacus form, this IDW form, was really quite grey. It was a very nice grey, don't get me wrong, but again, it sucks up the light. It looks a bit bland. So this kind of blue and gold, there's an Ultramarines vibe here, a bit of Warhammer going on, and particularly with the rounded shoulders and the sword as well. It would be very tempting, would it not, to have the kind of grey typical Grimlock in the first release and then have this in a robot form. It does look very good, and I can see people doing that. I really can. It's due to come out between June and July of this year, which of course shouldn't come as any surprise. It is just a repaint application, not really much in terms of retooling, redesign, although I did hear that a lot of people were struggling with breakages when they got their figures, and as it was coming out, it had a lot of weight to it, and they put it in like a typical plastic shell for packing, so of course in transit some arms, a lot of weight there, would shear straight off. So I hope that when this figure's released, it's going to come in styrofoam, polystyrene, something to really contain this figure, because the plastic's really not going to hold it. It's just shell, it's flimsy. It looks really good, and here you can see him alongside the two dinosaurs. I think it is really going to appease a lot of people. It's already a really good figure. Terrible transformation, I will say that now. But hey, Grimlock in G2 colours always sell, so it's of no surprise that they're doing this as well. But Planet X do not stop there. Oh my, now we're getting a bit serious. This is their version of a Victory Leo, and this looks huge. Look at the size of that gun. This is... Now, I'll say this. Star Saber wasn't used much in the IDW comics, and their version of Cadmos, their representation of the IDW Star Saber, was released, was fine, was very good. I'm still sort of on the lookout for one. So this is completing the character and what the character would do more in a Japanese continuity than the IDW comics. So they've taken a design that wasn't played on in IDW but said, oh, well, we might as well finish off the character to what he's known for. The Victory Leo itself looks very good, very dense, and again, very lined and detailed. It says to me that's quite far in production. And you see comparison shots alongside the two of them in jet mode and what they look like combined. There's a load more shots out there of what they look. I've just picked a few to show you right now, but when you look at the combined form, I'm not the biggest Star Saber fan in the world. It's not a continuity I'm particularly into or famous for, but I think that looks fantastic. The only thing that bothers me about that is the weight. That's going to have a lot of metal to it, a lot of die-cast. Stability is going to be a real issue, and I do pray for your shelves. I really do. But I think it looks really, really good. I really do. And I would be tempted to... I want to get Cadmos anyway, but now I'm tempted to get this. And again, a character I don't care about, but if that's going to pop right, if there's going to be the kind of like gold to the mane, that's going to look really nice on an IDW shelf. Couple of quick other ones. There was some Iacon 3D Labs did some... There's a few of them, but I kind of picked out on this one. So this is kind of upgrade kits for the Studio Series 86 Grimlock, which other people have done upgrade kits for various things, swords and guns and filler kits and the like. This is available now, so it says, but what we got here is a typical sword that we would see for Grimlock, the red sword with the hilt as well. You've got the crown that he's famous for, shoulder pads which look very nice and actually have a bit of a Piranha-Con kind of vibe to them as they sit on the shoulder, and a throne. I would be tempted to get this. I actually kind of think Grimlock with a throne looks really good. The sword, yeah, a lot of people said he should come with a sword anyway. If you haven't already got an upgrade kit to replace a sword, maybe this is the one that you want. I think the shoulder pads really make the difference there. Good 80s solid vibe. But yeah, I think all in all, when you get him sitting on the throne, that's going to look really nice. Still with me, we're going to keep going here. This is Vectron Lab. This is, okay, people are saying, is this Fans Toys by another name? I don't think so. I don't think so. I'm not sure. But this is an MP version of the Constructicons and ultimately Devastator. Now, this has been teased for a little while now. I want to touch on what makes this MP in a minute and where this is going to fit into a collection. But this is their only real release so far of Scrapper. Now, the detailing looks really good on the articulation. Look at the hands. Look at the posing that's there and the articulation on wrists. Looks really good for what it is. I love the detailing on the tyre treads as well. Still very early days, no colour renders, and even these look very blurred images as well. So again, I'm not certain how far in development this is. That's the bit I really want to focus on. Combiner mode height 52.5 centimeters, which works out, if I'm right, around 20 inches, which is shy of the Zeta Toys one. So where is this going to scale with? Is this going to be more of an X-Transbots height? I don't know. It does say that this will be a G1 masterpiece. They're going for what their interpretation of a masterpiece is, but then there's already the Toy World Devastator out there, which is no question the biggest Devastator on the market. And if you really want to square up with other combiners that are out there, this could come a little bit shorter. Some people will have you believe that Devastator is the biggest of them all because he's 6 bots. That's one thing that does concern me a tad. But we'll come to Devastator, Fans Toys, Combiner, and Combiner Wars another day. I think if this is Fans Toys, I don't know if it is. There's a lot more legs in this. Scrapper, leaves a leg bot. There's a joke. But also at the end there, VL02 Megatron. They're also looking at a Megatron. A few people are looking at a Megatron now. I gotta think why. It's been a long time since MP36 was revealed. I still think MP36 is a standard bearer for Megatrons. A lot of other people have tried, a lot of other companies have tried and fallen short. So what do Vectron Lab think they can do any differently? It'll be interesting to see. Now again, this was released literally a couple of days ago, so I'm not going to spend too much time on this, but X-Transbots are also getting into the Combiner Wars now with their version of a Devastator. But we saw more on the colour variants, which X-Transbots are happy to say straight out the gate, you're going to have 3 colour versions of this character. And here we have a Scrapper in a G2 colour scheme, and we also have the orange and purple, which I don't know what that is meant to be. It wasn't Generation 3 and it wasn't Shattered Glass, so what was this going to be? Why was there an orange version? I can't remember what that's supposed to be, but I have seen an orange Devastator before. I know it exists. US edition, was it a US toy exclusive back in the day to have an orange Devastator? I'm not sure. Now what I love about X-Transbots is their car modes. They actually don't look like Transformers. They look like cars first, robots second. Interesting that these are blurred though. Interesting that they're keeping this away from us, but still, some people are going to be really happy that we got Throttlebots coming. I love the wheels on the feet and how this is somewhat keeping Toon accurate as well. It does again look very slender. There's a lot of this in their runabout, run amok molds. They're very stick thin, possibly too thin if I'm being picky, but I could be tempted to pick up this and others that come, more Throttlebots, even though I'm not the biggest fan of the Throttlebots. They don't mean all that much to me. And we also get one image of a Nightbeat, if I'm right. Certainly Nightbeat colours. Not crazy on the head sculpt of this, but hey, it's early in production. We'll see what comes in future weeks. And there you go, that is all the third-party reveals at TFCon in Los Angeles 2022. It was only 4 months ago that we had the last TFCon with all of the reveals then, so there's actually been quite a lot to talk about, what has been over through Christmas and Chinese New Year since, so there's a lot going on in the third-party world. And if you think from before, when people were saying, is this the end of Masterpiece, is this the end of third party? Not a bit of it. Everyone's trying something new, going in different directions. There's a lot to talk about. It's great to digest and to get your teeth into. And it is pure speculation. A lot of this is speculation. When you go onto forums, everyone's got different ideas and different suggestions about what it's going to mean. So it's really interesting to see, from what we know now, what little we know now, where this could all end up. But anyway, thanks for watching. Sorry if my voice came across really raspy in all of this. I am still suffering with COVID, but hey, I really wanted to get this out. And as always, I will see you on the next one.